Hello and welcome to another War 40k Imperial Guard Tactics video. Now before we get into today's video, I'd like to say a big thank you to Patrick Cononay for sending in some awesome pictures of his Scion Force, the 3rd Gladiator Dragoons. Love this colour scheme, really like the flag with the blue and the white and the red. Very nice contrasting colours with sort of the green on the armour. I just think it works really well. So thank you for sending these pictures in, Patrick. If anyone else has got any cool pictures they want me to use in my videos, please post them on my Facebook page or email them to me at mordianglorytv@gmail.com. Now without further ado, let's get into today's video. So it's going to be a quick one today, guys. I'm going to essentially do like a quick tip tactica on how I would quickly throw together a mechanized Imperial Guard force. You see, there's a lot of commanders out there that like mechanized infantry. You know what? I'm one of them. I have a full Steel Legion army. But the problem is that mechanized has taken a really big hit in 9th edition with the way the secondaries work. You see, not only can someone take Tank Hunter as one of their secondary objectives, but your opponent could also take Thin the Ranks. They're not exclusive. Despite that they're both killing based, for some reason they're not exclusive. So what that means is that for every Chimera that us guardsmen lose, the enemy can gain 3 secondary points from that. And then when you factor in the fact that there's going to be a squad inside that Chimera, it means that each Chimera squad that dies is giving up 2 secondary points just for Thin the Ranks alone, and 2 secondary points for Bring It Down. Now what that means is that if you turn up to the battlefield with your classic Steel Legion army, like I have, of 6 Chimeras and the rest being Leman Russes, you are very quickly going to give your opponent a way of scoring maximum points on 2 secondaries just for killing you. And that's something they would be doing anyway. You're not making your opponent really work for it. Think about it. They're going to want to kill those Leman Russes. That's 4 points for each one of those Russes because of Bring Them Down and Thin the Ranks. So yeah, it's not good. So how do we counter this? How do we get round it? Well, I think the way you get around it is you have to kind of accept you're going to be giving away quite a few secondaries, but you don't want to give away all of the secondaries. You want to limit it as best as you can. But you also want to be able to be playing the 9th edition game, which is the objective game. You want to be playing it. So there's a couple of ways I would approach this. The first way is I would do, if possible, when building your mechanized list, try not to give any more than 10 points away for Big Game Hunter, and the same really for Thin the Ranks. So what that's going to limit you to is either 3 tank commanders, which not really mechanized infantry at that point, or it limits you to about 5 transports with guys inside. Okay, so that's the first thing that I would think about. Okay, first bit of advice. Now, pursuing that rabbit hole a bit further, if you're only going to be taking 5 squads with 5 transports as the sort of core of your army, then it's probably a good idea to make those the best damn transports and the best damn infantry. So for me, really looking at this, I would be looking at Scions for my mechanized infantry. But I know some people are saying, well, Scions deep strike, they're suicide. Not all of them. If you actually look at the Capic Eagles, they have a fantastic trait for running them as mechanized infantry. Really good. It means when they disembark from their transport, they get +1 to hit. And they don't suffer the penalty for moving and shooting with heavy weapons on their infantry. Which means if you've got volley guns in your Capic Eagle squads and you jump out of transport, you're hitting on 2s. Now with an order here and there, you can be getting all your infantry, all 50 Scions, to be hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s. Okay, now that's really good. So that's one thing you want to be thinking about. If you're going to be taking mechanized infantry, make them proper mechanized infantry. Okay. Now in terms of transport, you have a choice here. You can go for the more budget option, which is the Chimera, which is more durable. It's toughness 7. Okay. Now the Chimera's had a big boost recently, and if I was to take it, in terms of its heavy bolters I should say, I would take it with twin heavy bolter. One in the hull, one in the turret. That gives you some solid damage to output. Okay, solid. Pardon me. So that's that. Or the alternative is, if you want to spend 25 points more, you take Torx primes with Gatling cannons and hotshot volley guns. Okay, now they are less tough. They are obviously only toughness 6, but they do have 20 shots on them, 20 Daka shots, which is good. And then you've got the hotshot volley gun, so that gives you some anti-horde. So I would say it's not. But the thing with the Daka prime is it's a little outside of London Lions. You might want to be thinking about, if you're going to take primes, the battle cannon one for the sweet strength 7, or maybe even the missile launch one. But then you're starting to get pricey. It's starting to get very pricey. So for me, when you weigh it all up, if you're going Capic Eagles to do this, I would take the Chimera. It's cheaper and it's tougher. If you go for another regiment to do the same thing, for example, if you go London Lions, I would do this with Daka primes. That would be my advice. There is some argument to be made for taking missile launcher primes as well. If you're going to need some long-range anti-tank, might as well strap a couple of crack rockets to the top of your vehicle. That's not a bad shout either. But the point is that you want to be taking 5 transports. How you take them is up to you, because that means those 5 transports, they only give up 10 big game points, bring them down points, and they only give up 5 thin the rank points, which is not that great really. If you combine it with the 50 infantry that you take, the most that the enemy can score, or if they take those 2 secondaries against you, is 20 points. Well, that's not too bad. That's the most. Now that straight away starts discouraging the enemy. You know, when they see when it's a bit of a psychological thing. You're like, okay, imagine if your opponent sets up opposite you and they've just got 5 transports. Your first inclination isn't going to be take, bring it down. Your first inclination is, you know, that's not really going to go. And when you see they've only got 50 infantry, your first inclination isn't going to be thin the ranks, is it? So it does, against some opponents, it will psychologically dissuade them from wanting to take those secondaries, even though they're probably still pretty good against you. They're now not auto picks against you. Okay, now if you put all that together, that's good. That's a solid core of your army. That will take up about, 1,000 to 1,200 points roughly. I can. Why rough it? Why not do it precisely? Why not get a bit professional on this channel? Okay. So the Chimera, if we go the Chimera route, then each one of those squads is going to be 230 points. And the way I've equipped those squads, if I go the Chimera route and I'm going Capic Eagles, is I take 10-man squads and I put either 4 plasma and a plasma pistol in there, or 4 volley guns and a plasma pistol in there. Now I would argue for the Capic Eagles, even though they're good with volley guns, and I would probably take maybe 1 or 2 volley gun squads, maybe take a couple of command squads instead of a full 10-man squad, and put 2 volley guns, in there. But I would argue that you're already running because you're running the Chimeras, you don't have a lot of anti-tank, and so you want to be there with 4 plasma guns and plasma pistols on each squad. That's what you want to be doing, because that gives you 20 plasma guns and 5 plasma pistols. So that is 25 plasma shots, which can put out at close range 45 plasma bolts, hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good, and you can always. So that's one way to look at it. Okay. Now the next thing that I would look at is you've taken up there. It's 230 points for one of those squads, and you're taking 5 of them. So that comes to 1,150 points. There you go. Wasn't too far off. Now you're going to need a couple of commanders in there as well. Now there's a couple of ways to approach this. First one is we'll go down all the way down one route. So you want 2 Tempesta primes. You want to fit this all into 1 battalion. So you want 2 Tempesta primes. Okay, now they'll set you back another 100 points with the old command rods and whatnot. So that will give you enough orders to cover 4 of your squads. If you then take the auto reliquary of Tiberius, it lets you get another order on a 2+. So that will give you enough orders to order all your squads, or the majority if you're taking some command squads as well. So that's one way of doing it. So you're left with quite a few points left over. Now this is where it gets tricky. If you add any more infantry in, or transports in, then it becomes pretty obvious to pick the thin the ranks, or to bring them down against you. Or you're like, I could add some tanks in, but then people going to start maxing it. So what do you do? What do you do? The answer is you need elite infantry, as elite as they get for the guard, which we're talking about Bullgrins. Okay, Bullgrins are actually really good, because when you look at your army, you've got maneuverability, you've got firepower, but you're still a little weak. You know, toughness 7 isn't anything too fancy to write home about, and also you are rubbish in combat, and you've got no real way of holding objectives. Enter left of stage, 2 squads of Bullgrins. Big squads. We're talking minimum 7 man in each one. 7 Bullgrins in each one. If you add 2 big old Bullgrin squads into this army, actually you can't, if at that point, or if all you added in was the Bullgrins, you could take a 9-man squad and an 8-man squad, and that would be 1,981 points roughly. You know, that'd be about 2,000 points. Now the way that you have a choice. This is where the choice comes in. Okay, so that is one list. You turn up, you've got 5 transports, 50 scions, which are all blasting away with plasma, and you've got, what is it, like 17 Bullgrins? That's tough. That is, as someone who runs a squad of 9 Bullgrins, it can take my opponent's entire army shooting at them to make a dent in them. And if they don't dedicate fire on them, you know, sucks to be them. You know, sucks to be the enemy, because those Bullgrins are going to smash. They're going to absolutely smash them. So that's one way of, so taking lots of Bullgrins, at first it feels like wrong, but actually it's really powerful. It's really, really powerful. You give them and the way you boost, now the way I would do it is I would actually maybe take 2 squads of 7 Bullgrins. So I'd lose 3 more. Now you lose all those Bullgrins. That gives you enough points to get 2 Astropaths, at least, and a Priest. And then what that does is it means you can boost up your Bullgrins with Psychic Barrier and Night Shroud, and you can also make those Bullgrins a force to be reckoned with, because you can have a Priest in there to keep them in line. Okay, not keep them in line, to give them extra attacks, which means you go up to 5 attacks per Bullgrin, which is tasty when you get that charge up. So that's one way of doing it. The other way, it's pretty much exactly the same. The other way is that you drop one of the Tempesta Primes, and you should still have enough points left over to take Yarrick. Okay. Now what you do is, with the Tempesta Prime, you keep the Tempesta Prime with the Auto Reliquary of Tiberius, so he's able to issue 3 orders, and you take 3 squads of Scions with Plasma, and you give them the reroll, and you take Yarrick, and then how that works is when you, or you could drop more Bullgrins and go down to 5-man squads of Bullgrins, or 6-man squads of Bullgrins. You can rearrange the points however you want. The point is that you can either have slightly less Bullgrins, but they're buffed up with Priests and Astropaths, or you can have slightly less Bullgrins and boost up your Scions, because you'll be able to have Yarrick's reroll 1s to hit Aura, which is really good, and that frees up your orders to do things like bring them down, or Firestorm Sanction, which lets you get loads of rerolls to wound. So there's different ways you can do it. I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty of it. The point is that you want that core of infantry and tanks backed up by a support of a shed load of Bullgrins. And how you boost those sounds, how you boost those units is kind of player choice really at that point. It's preference. You know, I'm a big fan of the Yarrick route. He takes up an HQ slot, so he's not it's actually only 50 more points than you would be spending anyway. He gives reroll 1s to everything. Scions, if you have them close enough to your Bulgrins, you keep this as like a bit of a death ball army. He's going to be giving them reroll 1s. You guys can jump in and out of transports. I think there's loads of different ways you can make it run, and I think Yarrick is a strong contender as well. And that's the way I would run it. And then in terms of objectives, you've got you're immune to secondaries, and the world is kind of your oyster when it comes to any secondaries. The world's kind of your oyster when it comes to your secondaries. So there you go, guys. Could be totally wrong. I will, caveat this by saying this is a theory hammer situation based on my experience of facing Scions in 9th. They are very deadly, very, very good. And using Bulgrins in 9th and taking those two things and smashing them together. So I've been on the receiving end of one half of the list, and it's painful, and I've used the other half of the list, and it's effective. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Thank you for watching, and of course, I'll see you guys next time.